the front row looking a little bit empty. Added to that, some persons coming late, they can easily slip to the back. I beg your indulgence, please. Thank you. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome. Join me in standing as we invite God's presence in our midst as we begin this afternoon's proceedings. Dear great and eternal God, we thank you for life. We thank you for being in the land of the living. We thank you, O God, for such a fashion like this, where we can come and launch this wonderful program that is going to benefit our boys that are going to be men in the future, to be our family's leaders, our nation's leader, the leaders of tomorrow. Even as we begin, O God, we pray, O God, from the very onset that you will take full charge and control over everything that will be said and done here this afternoon, and that in the end, the engagement will be a fruitful and a meaningful one, and the aims and objectives will be accomplished. We thank you for doing it. In Jesus' name, amen. Kindly remain standing as we have the national anthem. It's going to be an instrumental. Thank you. You may be seated. Honorable Gloria Ann Thomas, Minister for Social Development and Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs. Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Naomi Jeremiah, Permanent Secretary with responsibility for Social Development and Gender Affairs. Dr. Stephen Fletcher, Program Manager for SAEP. Management and staff of the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs. Bishop Dave King, Pastor of Temple of Deliverance, River Sally, St. Patrick. Members of the business community, specially invited guests, parents and participants, members of the community and surrounding areas, members of the media, online viewers, one and all, a pleasant good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you this afternoon to the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Gender Affairs launch of the Boys to Men program. It's a program that has been long in the making, and finally we are able to launch that program today. Let's put our hands together for this initiative. From the very onset, I want you to feel welcomed, one and all. Feel warmly welcomed to this program. It promises to be great, and it targets our boys aged 12 to 18 years. All right? Now, at this time, we will invite to the podium Mr. Trevor Hutchinson, a retired educator, to give some brief remarks. Let's welcome him as he comes.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. As the chairman has said, brief remarks. My remarks here this afternoon is basically as a point from where I am at to you, the young men, to you, the ladies, and those grown men like me. I speak to you from a platform of where we are at as it relates to prostate cancer and males. Having checked the stats, Grenada is #1 in the world for prostate cancer. We are at 80.5%. Barbados is second with 50.6, I think it is. Jamaica is number 3. And in the top 10, we have 7 Caribbean countries. You young men are not too young to be aware that it is real. At age 40, we are told that we should do our prostate test to have an idea to where we are at. You are young, and when my good friend Andy told me of this program, I said, let me start with you, the young ones now. So that you, by the time you get to age 40, you would not find it difficult to go to have that first test done at your doctor. Most people are afraid of the initial test. And I think this is why maybe it is so outstanding in the Caribbean. Because the initial test requires the doctor to use his finger to inspect your bottom and to check the prostate to see the size. After this, PSA would be done. It is natural for us, especially black males, for it to get enlarged. And when the PSA start moving up 6 and more, they will do biopsies to check to see your stage. And I'm saying this to you because I, on the 1st of July, had to do surgery for prostate cancer, having lost my father through it. So it runs genetically. So I'm saying to you, young men, keep it in the back of your mind. Do not be afraid of the initial test. It is only you and the doctor who would know what has happened. And you ladies, please pressure the men to go and have it done. Because what we are realizing, our males are the ones that are hiding. I've said this to you, and I'm serious about it, having been through it myself. I'm standing here. I can tell you, I'm not ashamed. On me, I have my pull-up. But I'm not ashamed of it. And I want you to be aware of it, young men, and to those sitting on the head table, and ladies, please encourage your male folks to go and have it done. It's better to get it while it's early. It can be treated. And if it's too late, you know what happens. So let us see if we can stop it as best we can. Finally, our diet is something that we have to pay attention to. You know, we Grenadians like a lot of carbs. So we have to start watching the carbs and processed foods. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hutchinson. A round of applause for Mr. Hutchinson again. And let's take it seriously. All right. Now, at this time, I want to give us an overview of what the Boys to Men program really is about. What we're really going to be talking about or discussing with your sons, your brothers, our young men in particular in relation to this program. Now, we want to look at violence in general, all the different types of violence, sexual violence, intimate partner violence, gender-based violence. We're going to be looking at respectable behaviors, consent, non-consent, sexual harassment, healthy lifestyles, healthy manhood, healthy relationships, how to initiate difficult conversations, communications, suicide prevention and awareness tips, coping strategies, right? Cooperation and conflict, responses towards authority, and we have a career session where we have different professionals from various career backgrounds that are going to come in and have different discussions with our young men and our boys. Now, as part of the program, we have 2 field trip activities. And the field trip activities preferably are going to be on weekends so as not to interfere with the instructional school time of our boys or participants of the program. So it would either preferably be the Saturday or the Sunday. But of course, that's going to be based on the consensus of the general participant body. All right? And we want to also let persons know that the program is entirely free. There is no cost to anybody. It's borne by the ministry and our collaborating partners. So we want to encourage persons to take advantage of that program. It's intended to do good things. Our boys can only benefit positively from the program if they engage with it meaningfully. And so we want to encourage persons, let's not take a lackadaisical approach. Let's encourage our boys. Let's support them as they go throughout this period of the program. As was said, the name of the program is Boys to Men. So in other words, it's a psychosocial program of mentorship that moves you from boyhood, if I should use that word, to manhood. A lot of us that are men today, we didn't just arrive from zero to hero. It wasn't a zero to hero flight. It's a process. So in the process, you need support. And with support, you need people to support you. You need systems and programs to support you. And it's from that kind of backdrop, that's the idea of the men's program, the Boys to Men's program from the men's box of the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. All right? At this time, I now invite to the podium Dr. Stephen Fletcher from SAEP to make a couple remarks. Let's put our hands together for him.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So I think right. So we have on the head table a number of distinguished persons, including, of course, Honorable Gloria Ann Thomas, Minister for Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs. We also have listed here PS Naomi Jeremiah, but she is not present here as yet. She's on her way. So I suspect she might be listening somehow, so I'm still recognizing her. There's certainly the management and staff of the ministry, of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender, certainly Bishop Dave King, who is pastor of Temple of Deliverance, Riverside, St. Patrick, persons from the business community who happen to be present, specially invited guests, members of staff of the Rural Development Unit, and SAEP, the Climate Smart Agricultural Enterprise Program. Certainly, the boys that I'm seeing represented here this afternoon, I'm seeing from McDonald College, I'm seeing from St. Mark's Secondary, and I think there might be one from St. Rose Modern Secondary School. Members of the media, parents, teachers, members of the surrounding community, online viewers, one and all, welcome to this evening's event. I bring you warm, healthy greetings from the Rural Development Unit, which comprise of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, BNTF, and the Climate Smart Agricultural Enterprise Program, SAEP. And I want to immediately start off by saying how happy we are to associate ourselves with this program. As you know, we are certainly one of the key sponsors of this event, along with CUSO and the ministry, and we are certainly delighted to be part of this. At a personal level, I'm indeed very happy to be associated with such program because it aligns with my own personal thinking about life at this stage, about the young boys, young men, and society overall, where we are at, where we are going, where we came from. Secondly, at a personal level, McDonald College always brings back good memories to me. I was not a student at McDonald College, but McDonald College is one of the schools that allowed me to hone my community work skills. As a student, at the time, I was very much engaged in the development of the National Student Council. Now we're talking about way back. So if I'm to age myself a little bit, so it was between the 1978 to 1983 period, when some of us were very committed to the balance between academic education, building our academics, but at the same time, helping to contribute to what we call it, a better society, a more developed society. So one of my tasks was to go around secondary schools in the country and help build student councils. It is here I met some very good friends, and we remain friends up to today. Mr. George Philbert was one of those guys who was a student here at the time, and Mr. St. John was among other, two of the guys I remembered very clearly, and therefore McDonald College bears very fond memories in my heart and in my work, as I said before. Now, this afternoon event is very important for us as a society. The program is done Boys to Men, which indicate the transition that we take young men as we move from one stage to the next. We go through a life cycle. We go through a gestation period, then we have birth, we have growth, up to maturity, then we level off. We form a plateau, yeah? And then the downward decline, okay? These days, this life cycle seems to be getting shorter and shorter. And I want to focus on this a bit this afternoon, and certainly coming on the heels of what the previous speaker, the retired teacher, had to indicate about his own health experience and the importance of this. Let me speak to the young men a bit. It is not too early for you to begin to pay special attention to your overall life. Many a times when we think of these programs that seek to imbue a higher space in our minds about our society, whether it's about males or females, we tend to focus a lot on the negatives of the society. So for young boys, the overarching concern a lot does be about violence among young men. That is very important. And it is necessary because violence is one of the things that shortens our lifespan. It reduces our lifespan. It reduces our freedom because we end up undertaking actions that get us into prison and not retain us in society with our families and within our schools and so on to live a healthy and prosperous life. That is important for us to pay some attention to and to indicate and to employ strategies that seek to reduce that tendency. So we must focus on that. But equally important are a number of things that I want to reference here. One of the first issues that I want to speak to is this whole issue of health among our young boys and young people. Certainly, at this young age, we have a tendency we can eat anything, we can do anything because we are healthy and we are young and we're going to grow it out. But I can tell you that what we consume today as young boys, 12 years old, 15 years old, it has a permanent impact on overall well-being, overall health. The fries, the stews, the high carbs consumption, the alcohol has significant effect on overall health and our longevity. And that we must address. And therefore, this is why SAEP, under one of its main pillars, has embarked upon, most recently we launched our backyard gardening program that will give over 100 households in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique the ability to get into farming, as we said, in your backyard. That is why we're engaged with the schools in the 4-H program, where again we are teaching and coaching young persons like yourselves to grow your own food, to eat what you grow and grow what you eat for a healthy lifestyle. That's why we are engaged in providing grant funding to adults in households, needy persons, to involve in agriculture, to involve in livestock, to involve in poultry, because we certainly recognize the importance of these healthy lifestyles. I have here some very damning statistics as it relates to my friend here on prostate cancer. It's an issue that concerns me dearly because it affects and impacts and shortens the lifespan of men. So I have data here from short period, but very pronounced in its impact, from 2022 on a parish basis, every parish in Grenada, from 2022 to 2024. And the stats are alarming. In every parish, we are seeing increasing tendency towards prostate. In some areas, it has, in fact, declined, but this is what is registered. The data always shows what is registered. There are persons among us who are probably suffering from prostate and has not checked, because, again, we have taboos around it. Gone are the days when he said you must start checking your prostate levels at the age of 40. It is now coming down to probably in your 20s. We must begin to pay attention to it. Why? Because among other things, what we consume defines us. What we consume affects us. So things like alcohol consumption, for example, is a key contributor to some of those things. And some of it is genetic. Many years ago, those of you who are at my age and a little bit older will recall we used to refer to it as stop it of water. That's what it was called, stop it of water. And we didn't know that this thing was really a cancer. In my little mind, growing up, I thinking, well, somehow something enlarged and it blocking the urine from coming out properly. Yes, that is one of the effects. But you know what? It is beyond this. So things like we must pay attention to young men and parents, regular consumption of water, 18 glasses per day, good eating habits, and good maintenance of our personal hygiene, good maintenance of our sexual being as well. We must also look after that, young men, and make sure that we in fact have a good, healthy program around us. And it is with that in mind, in fact, at a personal level, if I may just make a plug here, I've been so consumed with this issue of prostate cancer and men's health overall, that at a personal level, I will announce in very short order an initiative, a personal initiative that focuses on men's health and wellness. All right? I also want to say here that from SAEP perspective, SAEP launched last week, yes, Ms. John, last week we launched our health and wellness program for the staff at SAEP. We are going to be combining physical activities with mental activities, psychological activities to help keep our staff healthy. So last week we launched our program with internal reflections, internal activities of the mind, building the mind, because everything we do starts with the mind. Young men, so what we think affects us in that way. So, but on Friday, we'll be out on the streets. The plan is that every Friday, we will down tools at 1 o'clock, and we'll get involved in activity, walking, physical activity, and so forth. We are hoping that others will join in, and it will become part of the lifestyle of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We need to have a healthy lifestyle. Young men, you have a great responsibility. You have a great responsibility. We encourage gender equity, but we must not lose sight of the fact, and I'm now branching off to talk about responsibilities here from the age of 12, that you need to carry out your responsibility as a young boy, transitioning into adulthood. What are some of those responsibilities? They are very basic, you know. They are very basic. And I'm sure your parents at home are struggling with you sometime every day to get it right, because it is a foundation of the discipline and building of a young man, of an adult. So simple things like, when you get up in the morning, make up your bed. Say good morning to the households. Greet the household, make sure everybody's all right. Brush your teeth. Get your hygiene right. You're getting for school, your school uniform and shoes should be intact. You should be asking mommy, well, mom, where is this or where is that, or daddy? Without them having to come and chase after you and ask you, have you done this, have you done that? And be prepared, time yourself. Timing is important. If you have to get to school within a certain distance, and you know it takes half an hour, 15 minutes, you know you must time yourself accordingly. That is part of the maturing process. This is part of taking responsibility and carrying out that responsibility, right? So when you become, as you grow and develop that discipline, a number of things are going to happen. There are great benefits to be had from being a disciplined young man. One, it helps you to focus on doing the right things. Secondly, it, in a way, confines you against violence, against getting involved in antisocial behavior. One of the things that I'm sure your parents would have told you, I would have overheard, that you need to practice, well, two things really. One, when you get angry or when you're faced with a challenge, drink a glass of water. Even if the water is not close, swallow your saliva. Pause and swallow your saliva. It helps to calm down and bring down the pressure. And the second thing is take a deep breath. I'm sure you heard this. Take a deep breath and walk away from any situation that can lead to violence. It's important that you do that. You take away, right? You take a deep breath, you relax yourself, and you move on. The part of this program is going to deal with strategies for impacting how you manage conflict situation. So that is certainly useful. The final point I want to talk to you about, guys, is this. And parents, we must be very mindful of this. Young men today are coming under significant pressures. Issues of the access to the technology, the smartphone that controls us, it's a big issue among men. We spend a lot of time on this. We can't do without it. because we have been encouraged by the technology companies to put everything in the palm of our hand. Remember when I worked with a previous company that deals with these products? Cable and wireless is about having it in the palm of your hand. Everything is here. But what happens when we misplace it? Our banking information is here. Our health information is here. All right? Our academic work is here. But we find ourselves, as young men, you'll find yourselves being sideways into all kinds of other use of this facility. You have to control this. This is something that we have to look at. And whereas it is good, there are the downsides to it. The good sides, in fact, recently listening to some young people from McDonald College on the main street, I approached two of the guys who were having a chat, and among the questions they asked them, well, what do you want to do? And what do you think they want to do? They want to be a YouTuber. They want to be a YouTuber. Now, some people might think, well, that is off. But a YouTuber, depending on the aspect of it, can be a very good thing. Can be a very good career to undertake. And it's coming from what you see happening here. It could be positive as well as it could be negative. The final thing is that as we go through this program, I will want to encourage the program designers and implementers, and certainly SAEP is part of that, to really get involved in a much more engaging discussion. In fact, today I would have much preferred to sit in a circle and share stories with you guys. But I know I'm going to be back, where we can share these stories and learn from each other. In the 1970s, we had the women's program, the equality program, when issues of women's rights and so on was at the peak. Opening the doors for the women, breaking the glass ceiling. This all went and it had its positive impact. I would argue, at a personal level now, not as a program manager, at a personal level, I would argue that this movement, whereas it was good, has had certain downsides to it. And part of the downsides was that our young males got left. Our young males got left. We now must ensure that every part of society rises, boys and girls, whatever on that gender lens you are in, that we all move forward together, and that we protect everyone in the society, irregardless of gender disclosure. It is important that we do that. And now is the time when I think that we should build from it. There is a young man from St. Patrick area, which I will, in the future, certainly bring to your attention. I think he's a Charles. He participated in the cultural program that was held earlier on this year, Unleashed. I think he went to the St. Patrick Anglican School. He's now big in the movie business. He's now big in the movie business. I'm going to bring that to your attention to show what is possible from St. Patrick. You have a rich cultural heritage, but we can do much more. Young men, you will be charged by Pastor King, but allow me to encourage you to be your best. And I want to encourage you to be somebody, because you can be somebody. You can be somebody that is productive for yourself, your family, and your society. I want to encourage you to take this opportunity, these extra school activities, to build yourself into that kind of person which I know you can and would be. Thank you very much, and enjoy the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fletcher. I hope we were listening, and I hope we were taking what he's saying and will take what he said to us at heart and implement as best as we could. At this point, it's my esteemed pleasure to welcome our esteemed minister, Minister Gloria Ann Thomas, to address us. Let's put our hands together for our minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Stephen Fletcher, Program Manager for SAEP, management and staff of the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs, Bishop Dave King, pastor of Temple of Deliverance, Riverside St. Patrick's, members of the business community, specially invited guests, parents and participants, members of the community and surrounding areas, members of the media, online viewers, pleasant good afternoon to all. It gives me great pleasure to be part of this very important activity here this afternoon. We recognize that we must continue to engage our young people in positive and progressive programs to ensure that we do the best for them to get the best from them. Today, our society is challenged by an upsurge in violence and various forms of deviant behaviors. As we look at our tri-island state, there is a need for concern. Unfortunately, these acts of violence and other forms of deviant behaviors are mostly perpetrated by men and boys. When we look at our prison, it is obvious that the population there is predominantly male. However, there are reservoirs of talents and abilities possessed by these inmates within these spaces that can be beneficial to society. But due to the lack of conflict resolution skills and poor judgment, they find themselves in conflict with the law and are now incarcerated. As a ministry, we recognize that there is much work to be done through meaningful engagements and support that will equip our men and boys to promote a more cohesive society. And as such, the Men's Bureau of the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs is tasked with the responsibility of designing programs and providing supportive activities to engage men and boys for meaningful and sustainable positive change. The Men's Bureau, which is situated within the national gender machinery of the Ministry of Social and Community Development, is the coordinating mechanism for gender mainstreaming in Grenada. The Men's Bureau is one of our 4 units within the vision to facilitate gender transformative programming. The unit engenders gender equality and social inclusion, as articulated in the Cabinet-approved National Gender Equality Policy and Action Plan. Grenada's gender equality agenda is further endorsed in the National Sustainable Development Plan. The National Gender Machinery includes the Parenting Education Unit, Gender-Based Violence Unit, Gender Equality and Inclusion Unit, and the Men's Bureau. The composition is strategic. Its intention is to strengthen and promote gender equality in government policies, programs, and projects, which is a gender mainstreaming mechanism. The Men's Bureau will play a critical role in contributing to the design and implementation of unique considerations of age, disabilities, and gender-responsive programs specifically for men and boys. Today, the ministry, in collaboration with SAEP and CUSO International, will launch a program for young boys. This program is called the Boys to Men program. It targets boys from 12 years to 18 years. This program will commence from today and climax with an award ceremony on the 26th November 2024 as part of International Men's Day. The ministry is committed to running other cycles of this program in other parishes throughout the island in 2025. The following are the objectives of the program: to foster healthy male-to-male communication as well as with persons of the opposite sex, to promote an enabling environment for sustainable positive behavioral change through ongoing male engagement and collaboration, to engage men and boys on their role as co-champions for social justice, to engage men and boys in exploring, discussing, and implementing healthy masculinities. At the end of the program, it is the hope that the following will be achieved: implementation of effective self-discipline, control, and conflict resolution skills, strengthened and improved communication skills, highlight the disadvantages of discrimination and all forms of violence, promotion of healthy masculinities, developed strategies to curb deviant behaviors. In conclusion, the ministry and its collaborating partners, and by extension, the government of Grenada, is unable to do this work alone. We therefore request your support as we work together to mentor and support young men, to build families, and promote healthier communities and society. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister. And we do appreciate your support thus far with respect to the program. Minister, I've been working very hard to ensure that this program is up and running together with CUSO International and SAEP, and we are really grateful. I mean, I personally, as a part of the Men's Bureau, I'm really heartened to at least see that this program is now coming to fruition. And young men, I really want you to take that program seriously. I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always able to stand like that and speak to people. I was in your seat. I sat in chairs just like you. And you can end up anywhere you want to end up on the positive side, as long as you stay focused and you stay on the positive side of life. All right? At this point, it's my esteemed pleasure to welcome Bishop Dave King to do the motivational address to our participants and the parents alike. Bishop King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Time is of the importance. You did a very good job in establishing the protocol list. Permit me to just flow on what was already established. But let me pause to commend the initiative that is undertaken as it relates to our Boys to Men program. I wish to commend the Ministry of Social Development and partners in this. I think it is important for us to understand, even today when we look at our world, we are realizing that there is a direct attack upon our men, in belittling our men, trying to get rid of our men, that there is that fight and that struggle even to rewrite the dictionary. So every word that has man in it, they're trying to get rid of it simply because they're after the man. And we have to stand and stand firm. I remember while sitting there, it was Dr. Fletcher who asked about the boys at the church. And I said, we have a group of young men at least that we are working with. But even in the church, there is a call for concern, because when we realize that our boys, even before they reach 12, 12 years of age, we are losing them in our churches. So if we lose our boys, it simply means that we will lose our men. And so there is that direct attack upon the men. So we also have young men who are confused. I have 13-year-old and so who would come to me and say to me, I'm not too sure who I am, whether I'm a male or a female. But I don't think there was any question when they were born. The doctor, the nurse would have told the father, the mother, you just had a bouncing baby boy or a lovely little girl. So that is established from day one. But where the confusion comes from. So we realize there is that direct attack. But let me stick to it this afternoon in challenging you who are here, including the parents. Even as we look at this, I think that there is a word that we must pay attention to, and that is growth. Now, every living thing is expected to grow. Where there is no growth or slow growth, concerns are raised because we would want to. Sometimes you hear mommy and daddy saying to the little boy, the little girl, I wish you could always remain like this. But that's only a saying, because after a couple of years, if they are still at the same point, they have problems with that because there is no growth. Now, the book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 15, it says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it from him. Now, children often do foolish and dangerous things. And the simple reason is because they don't understand the consequences. I'm standing here as a man and looking back. Although I wanted to challenge Mr. Richardson, I see under or above boyhood a little boy with a football, and on the other side another one fold his arms. So that means I'm a boy because last Saturday I played football. But talking about the foolishness, because we don't see consequences. All we know, we go about and we do a set of things, and you look back as an adult and you see some things. I remember growing up in Sates, there are some things when you look back, you realize some foolish things that you did. One of which I remember as boys, we used to stand by the side of the road. And when vehicles pass in, you take your toe and you're pushing it, who could push it closest to the wheel that is spinning. And looking back today, just one turn and you realize what would happen. If you stand up here and you look at the Roman Catholic Church, what is called the steeple, way up on top, you will see some fancy blocks there. And I remember they had to put those fancy blocks there to keep us from going there, because as boys, we used to go way up in the steeple and trying to watch on the outside. Now, if you know the height up there, if you come out from up there and fall into the ground, you haven't time to tell everybody in the world you're sorry for what you did before you actually land. But as a boy, as a child, you haven't seen anything like that because you don't understand the consequences. So the wise man said, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it from him. And as I told you, simply because they don't understand the consequences. Now, wisdom and common sense are not transferred by parents' good examples alone, but it is transferred by training. And training helps to make somebody a better person. Parents, I don't know, we try to give away our responsibility, but parents must discipline the children to help them learn the difference between right and wrong. So parents, we have a responsibility in the area of discipline in helping our children to understand the difference between right and wrong. Now, God has also provided other means for training and discipline. And today you are very privileged and fortunate to be able to have a program like this where you'll be provided with training so that you can become the individual that you should be. Let me say to you, boys, life has presented some hard knocks. Some hard knocks. Now, in the Bible, there is one by the name of Moses. Moses had a brother whose name was Aaron. Aaron was only 3 years older than Moses. Aaron was born the same place that Moses was born. Aaron had no problem. He was born, and he grew up in that area without much challenge. The very moment Moses was born, it was said that Moses should be killed. And as a result, his mother had to hide him for a number of months until she couldn't hide him anymore and decided to make a boat, took basket and just put slime inside of it and put the baby in it and just put it in the river to just end up somewhere or nowhere. But God in his mercies had somebody, his own sister, at one point in the river, who was able to take him, and yet ended up in the hands of his mother. Now, having said this, life has presented some hard knocks. For example, a giraffe. How many of you inside here know a giraffe? Now, to bring a baby giraffe in the world, it's a tall order, because the baby giraffe falls 10 feet to the ground from the mother's womb. Now, when the baby giraffe is coming to this world, the mother giraffe will look at the baby giraffe. She would just look over it, bend over, take her mouth, and take out all the slime that is on the baby giraffe. And she would watch the baby giraffe. And as the baby giraffe tries to get up with those legs wobbling, the mother giraffe will look at that baby giraffe and she would spin that long leg of hers and she would hit it violently and it would fall to the ground. And when the baby giraffe gets up again, the mother does the same thing violently. She hits it again and allow it to get up. Now it seems as though that the mother is abusing, but really and truly is a lesson that is being sent, because the mother giraffe is saying to the baby giraffe, in the wild, you don't have much time to think because you have enemies like those dogs and lions and other animals that will eat you, so you have to get up quickly. And so for some of you may find that some things happening to you, it was said by Dr. Fletcher, simple things like making up your bed and getting you to do a couple things. I remember my father waking me up early in the morning, having to go and look after cows, and I just couldn't understand that. There were times in our setting where you used to say that they were fooled by the moon, get up and thinking it's time, because they never had watch. They just wake up by impulses and go to the garden. And so time when we get there a little too early, we have to sit down because the moon is up and we have to wait for data light somehow. And that was a little problem to me. Is like, this man is so cruel, having to do this and having to get up this early and to do all of it. After I left Grenada and went to study when I was in Guyana, realizing how tough it was, all that he did came back again and to realize, hey, I was very grateful. So what I thought was against me, it was basically for me as an individual in helping me to become the individual that I am today. Let me hasten to say, the key to life is learning, because everything that happens, it's an opportunity for us to learn. And young people, whatever happens to you gives you an opportunity to learn. Hear what Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11. Paul says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So we're talking about from boys to men. Now, something happened between when I was a child and later on, but when. And what we saw there is that here comes the awareness of growth. So there are some things that you will do as a child, as a boy, as you grow and as you mature, you're realizing that you can't do that anymore, because Paul said, when I was a child, I did the thing as a child. Secondly, here comes the awareness of growth, because you are not the same person anymore. You are now growing. Thirdly, there is no more ignorance or excuses, because you are now growing. When I was a child, because when you were a child, you did things like a child. You say this, and constantly we hear parents say, now act like a grown-up, because they expect you to grow, not to remain as a child and to continue with the same kind of behavior, with the and all of these foolish things, because foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. But once growth takes place, it simply means that you are moving from this. Now, this is about taking responsibility from here on. So once you are able to say, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, but now I am a man. Now, this statement is a statement of taking responsibility from here on. Prior to that, you were riding a tricycle. So you had support on either side with those wheels. But now you become a man. You get rid of the tricycle and you are now riding a bicycle, because you have to now balance and to move. So you have to take responsibility for your action. I was watching something the other day on YouTube, and I just had to laugh. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see it. But this mother was outside doing something, and while she was doing it, she heard something fall in the house, and it seemed as though it was broken. So she called her daughter by name, and the daughter came out with a piece of the plate that was broken, and the mother asked what happened, and she said, the plate is broken. And the mother was so upset about you broke it and whatever, and the mother asked her to go inside and get your notebook. She went inside, she got the notebook, and I thought she was going to give her a lesson or to give her some homework. But the mother simply took the notebook and she looked at the child and she said, you are only 6 now, and I want you to know that when you turn 16, you have to pay me for the plate. So this is my retirement. So I'm going to put it down here that you broke a plate at so, what date? And she asked the child, come and sign your name by it. Hello? So when you come and you realize that you get to that place, that you're no more a child, because so many of you don't want mommy and daddy to treat you like a child. You're saying to them, mommy, I have grown now. Daddy, I have grown. So you have to make the switch. So when I was a child, I thought as a child. I spoke as a child. Yes. But now I become a man. I put away all of these things. So as I said, the support that you had on the tricycle, remove the extra wheels, and you're now on your bicycle because you have to take responsibility. So in other words, hear what will be used. You would hear the words, boy, man up now. Time to man up. Man up. Take some responsibility. Psalms 131 and verse 2 says, surely I have behaved and credit myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is as a weaned child, which means that you're no more just depending on milk because mommy weaned you, so you are now an adult. So for you, going forward, the program basically is to help you to understand that as a child you have done some foolish things. The responsibility is now given to come to the place to understand that growth is taking place. So I am not a child anymore, but I am now becoming a man where I have to take responsibility for my actions. So it means that the respect that you would give, you have to get rid of all these, the foolishness that you see children, everything they see they want, and you see they behave in a certain manner. This is what is in the heart of a child, foolishness. But as you grow, you look back and you see some things. I look back sometimes in my own life, my old boyhood days, and I said, boy, you know, some things that you have done, if I had the opportunity to do it all over again, certainly I will not do it the way I did it. But I did it in ignorance, and I did not understand the consequences. But I did it, and so forth. But now that I have, there are some things I don't do now at all, you know, because I have grown. I see something, we used to look at McDonald College here. We used to go and bathe in the sea, right in Sutter's, Bushery to be exact. And you will go outside there and you would swim way out without having a boat. And you're swimming way out just to see McDonald College School. You know how far that is? And you go out and you go, now that you see a McDonald College School, now you have to come back and you watch the distance. That alone in itself is a frightening experience. But what? Hello? When you're a child, what you do, you take a grain of pea and you don't have a problem with that. You push it in your nostril and you do some foolish things. But when you grow and you turn a man, you realize that these are not things that you do anymore, because foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. You understand consequences. I close on this note by saying to you, life, young people, is what you give. The story is told about a father who took his son up a hill. And while they were on the hill, it is said that the little boy with his father, he almost fell. And then he screamed, "Ah!" And after screaming, he heard those words coming back, "Ah!" And then he shouted, "You coward!" And then he had those words coming back to him, "You a coward!" And then he shouted, "You stupid!" And he had those words coming back to him, "You stupid!" And then he turned to his father and he said, "Dad, what is happening?" And the father said to him, he said, "Son, you need to pay attention." And somehow, like he was getting the message. And then he changed his phrases now. And then he shouted, "I admire you." And then he heard those words coming back, "I admire you." And then he used some other pleasant words. And then he heard them coming back. And then he began smiling. His father looked at him and he said, "Son," he said, "they call this echo. But I want you to know that whatever you give to life, life gives it back to you. Young people, just remember that. Whatever you give to life, life gives you back. So to move from a boy to a man, there must be growth. There must be that acknowledgement that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. But when you grow and you become a man, it's a time for you to put away childish things, to act like a man, so that people would see and say, yes, he has surely man up. I want to wish you all the best in your endeavors, and I want to encourage those of you who are here today that when the sessions start, please don't try to run away. Every session to you should be important, so make all effort to be a part of it. So thank you, and the Lord bless you richly.
Thank you very much, Bishop King. A round of applause again for him, please. So that was some words of admonition to our boys, our participants, and our parents and guardians alike. All right. At this time, I will now re-invite our minister to officially declare the Boys to Men program of the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs for 2024 officially launched. Minister.
Thank you again, Mr. Richardson. Colleagues on the head table, parents, participants, ministry officials, and senior managers from the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. Mr. Hutcherson, our guest presenter this afternoon, sharing some very important information with us. Young men, we present you with an opportunity for positive growth and development. This will afford you the chance to be the best selves, to be your best selves. You are invited to be part of this program because we see potential in you. And so, on this 24th day of September 2024, I declare the Boy to Men program officially open. Make the best of this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And so in everything, we must give thanks. And so we are bringing the curtains down to a close. Yeah, and so my task now is to say thank you. All right? So I want to say thank you, first of all, to Almighty God for granting us life and being in the land of the living, that we could even have this program. Yes? I want to thank our minister for being present with us today, taking time off for her busy schedule and to be present with us today. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to our participants. It means a lot for the future of the program, right? I want to say thank you to Mr. Hutchinson, our ex-educator, for that thought-provoking presentation there on our health and young men. Let us look at our health. I know a lot of times as young men, and men alike, men in general, we don't really pay attention to our health sometimes. Sometimes we say, well, you see me, I don't want to know. Because sometimes it's a thing that you know that start affecting you. But sometimes, and in most occasions, it's better that you know early so that the necessary care and the necessary prevention and treatment can happen. So thank you very much for that presentation. Dr. Stephen Fletcher, Program Manager of SAEP, we thank you very much for being with us and for that thought-provoking presentation that you gave with us. Pastor King, Bishop Dave King, we really thank you for that motivational session, to our boys, our participants, our parents, and to us in general. Even our online viewers, I'm sure persons can take a thing or two from what you would have said and apply it to our lives and be successful. Of course, our online audience, specially invited guests, members of the media, persons McDonald College, the principal and staff of McDonald College for allowing us to use this building. We say thank you very much. Our online viewers, members of the surrounding areas, one and all, thank you very much for making this afternoon possible. If it wasn't for you, our launch would not have been a successful one, and we want to thank you very much. I mean, my heart is overjoyed that at least this program can be launched and our young men can get the necessary help that they need to progress and move forward. Thank you very much. We are now dismissed. Thank you.
We'd like to sing this one to all the children around the world. From the shores of the Caribbean to the jungles of South America, to the inner cities of North America, across the oceans to Europe and Africa, and over into Asia.
The heart of a child, more precious than diamonds and pearls. Let's teach the children love and what it's worth. Yeah, the heart of a child, precious than diamonds and pearls.
Refreshments coming.
Let's teach the children love and what it's worth.
Participants, don't leave yet. We have some refreshments. It's almost here. All right, our refreshments are almost.
What better way to start where we know that God is love?
We've got to reach for their souls, save them from the troubles of the world.